Howdy, my name is Connor Redding, and I'm here on behalf of Project Orange, a phone to revolutionize the world. Let's start off with the problem. Phones are disposable. People throw away their phones at an increasingly higher rate. Actually, the average American will break their phones 45 weeks after buying it.
Average?
Yes,
Crazy.
the average, and these phones just go to waste. For lower income families, which is about 10.4 million families in America, this is a massive financial burden. Because in the modern market, you need a smartphone. It can even be a computer replacement. But if that breaks, you're out of luck. Not only that, but when your phone breaks, it just gets thrown away. The iPhone X on screen there, that back panel cannot be replaced. After it gets damaged, you send it into Apple for $480, they'll replace your phone and throw that one away. You have lead, cadmium, chromium, arsenic, bromine, chlorine, all in that phone going into the environment. It's terrible for the earth. So between the environmental costs and the financial cost to families, there's a huge problem with how phones have turned into these just one and done things. No one's addressing this issue. We saw Fairphone 2 try to address this issue, but there was just not enough features there. They had no waterproofing, they had no high-res screen, they were lacking the feature set that the modern American desires, because your phone is a indicator of your class, of your status, and Americans put a lot of credence into that. Not only that, but it was also extremely not durable. You drop that thing, it's shattered. It was made of all just plastic clips. How's that going to do anything? iPhone X can't be fixed, very easily broken. And the Cat S60, the thing's a tank. But because it's a tank, it can't be taken apart to replace any component, and it doesn't have that feature set. It doesn't have the high-res screen, and it's an all-plastic construction. And there's a couple that ride the middle, and we look at the Google Nexus 5 or the LG G5, both phones released in 2015 that try to address those middle grounds, and neither of them did. And the Samsung Galaxy S8 Active, which has a huge market behind it, but again, if you break that phone, you're up a creek. My solution is a phone that is not only feature-rich, not only entirely like each independent is completely replaceable by mechanics, no adhesive required, no adhesive replacement required, but is also insanely durable. It comprises of three main components. You have an outer titanium shell, which provides a majority of the durability and rigidity to the phone, a back carbon fiber panel, which allows, again, that rigidity, as well as wireless charging, which you cannot have on metal-backed phones, and is currently only available on glass-backed phones, which reduces durability. And finally, a Gorilla Glass 5 front, which, yes, you'll see on a majority of flagships today. What's unique about ours is, in addition to the digitizer being fused to the glass, there are 4 threaded holes on the back of that digitizer panel, which screws that on the back of the phone connect to. And so basically, you have a sandwich. And now, the feature-rich part of the phone, sure, you can have a high-res display. Sure, you can have the best charging out there. But people demand everything, and one of those things is waterproofing. Now, historically, it's been very, very hard for phones to be waterproofed when they're entirely fixable. You have to be able to take it apart, right? Bring O-rings to the market. I'm aware that O-rings are not a new technology, but currently the only place O-rings are being used on phones are on their connector, on the USB-C or Lightning or micro USB port on the bottom. What we're offering is O-rings that go all the way to the outside of the phone. Ones that, when you sandwich that titanium shell in between the front and the back covers, the O-rings are compressed and adds another layer of waterproofing. And this allows for the phone to go even deeper, because O-rings are much more effective than any adhesive on the market. Not only this, but the O-rings also act as a shock absorber in a way, so when you drop the phone, there's just a little bit more give, which will prove the difference between glass completely shattering and with the glass staying intact. Now, resources. In order to bring this product to market, it would need, namely, a patent filing. That is one of my first goals to do with this. Obviously, Now, I understand that other companies at the moment can definitely just take this idea and run with it, but to bring it back to the opportunity, I don't have stockholders telling me what to do. Because one of the big money makers of these phones today is that, first of all, the warranty costs, that it costs an extra $200 for an extra year on your warranty, as well as replacement cost. As I said earlier, $480 in order to replace the whole iPhone, which costs $350 to make. They're making $130 whenever you break your phone. In addition to that, we're looking for $500 for the shell prototyping. Looking at that titanium shell, the resource itself, titanium itself is not that expensive, it's more the milling of such. And looking to doing custom CNC milling would be the most extensive part of the prototyping process. Of course, initially I'd be using aluminum, but I'd have to move to titanium in order to get accurate prototyping designs. The 1500 for the logics and the electronics, looking at like voltage regulation, looking at the Snapdragon 845 main processor, and then $500 for power electronics, which is looking at either a LiPo battery or looking at a LiFePO battery and a boost converter in order to up the 3.2 volts in order to be the nominal voltage the rest of the phone needs. And then any excess money would be going to looking more into the fusing of the front glass and the digitizer, which is a known technology, but it would have to be custom for the 6-inch form factor of the phone. Questions?
Perfect. Good
Yeah,
job.
nice job.
How much will it cost to make, and how much would you sell the phone for?
So the cost to make initially, all priced out is about $350, and that's because I don't have the same wholesale resources that a company like Apple or
Sure.
Samsung does. I'm hoping to bring it to market for an initial cost of $500, which is $300 to $500 below any other flagship phone currently on the market. The only phone that would currently compete with it is the OnePlus 5, which currently is about to be upped in price to about $650 with the release of the new OnePlus 6. And they're losing their spot on the market as the budget flagship phone. No other phone is filling that niche right now, about a $500 flagship tier phone.
So as a result of the innovations that you're looking to put together in this phone, does it change the footprint of the phone, the weight, the size?
So one thing is that it will be slightly larger. But we've seen that phones are getting increasingly larger, and with the new 5.8 and 5.9 inch screens on the new Samsungs, I'd be about in that class. I'd be 2 millimeters wider and 5 millimeters higher.
So obviously, this goes back to the original problem that 45 weeks phone breaks, right? I have 5 kids, we have 7 phones, I probably can go myself and find 7 of them now. We have the insurance because you break it all the time, you have to go get a new one. So now I get your phone, what happens?
So
Is it the goal is not to break, or when it breaks, it's easy to fix?
well, it's both. So one thing is, it is very hard to break, but when you do break it, there's 4 screws that hold on that back panel as well as the front digitizer. You take that apart, with those 4 screws, you can replace the battery, you can replace the front panel, and you can replace the back as well as the shell. And if you undo additional screws, it would be 2 additional screws to replace the bottom power connector, it would be an initial 4 screws in order to replace the camera, but each part of the phone
Gotcha.
is able to be replaced.
So,
when-
I buy you I apologize, $500 phone, we just talked about Apple, it cost me $450 to fix it, so if something happens with yours, we're talking $50, $100, $150, what do
If
you
your
think?
front glass and your screen shatters and breaks completely, it'll cost about $50 to replace. And that's again with my current lack of access to a wholesale
Sure,
market,
gotcha,
it would go
okay.
down to about $40 with access to a better wholesale market. As for the rest of the phone, the carbon fiber back would cost $5 to $10 to replace. Titanium outside, you're looking at $10 to $15 to replace.
So now we're talking most common fixes will be under $100.
Oh, of course,
Yeah.
exactly.
And
Should
who will be
put that in
fixing
there.
it? Is it the consumer that'll fix their own phone, or?
So one of the things out there right now is the right to repair movement, and it passed with an 86% voter vote in Massachusetts, which is what requires companies to say, hey, this is how you can fix our phone. Unfortunately, when Apple goes, this is how you can fix our phone, except you can't really fix it, it doesn't really work so well. There's an obvious demand for people to want to fix their own phones, and so the goal would be for people to fix their own phones. Of course, if independent shops want to come out and go, we'll fix your phone, that's all fine by us, and we would offer a service in the future once the company is built up in order to fix people's phones.
You didn't talk about operating system at all.
Yeah.
Like what's, I mean, I know there's, what's in the guts?
So it'll be running Android, as any other phone other than an iPhone would be. It would be having a very light skin on it. It would just try to move it more to the aesthetic as well as improvements on the camera app, which the stock camera app with Android is not exactly the best. Other than that, it would stick mainly to stock Android, and the insides would be the same Snapdragon 845 processor as you would see in any major flagship phone out there. The battery, that's currently up in the air as to whether or not we would go with a higher life cycle battery, one that lasts for 2,000 cycles but has a lower overall power hold, or whether we'd go with a 4,000 milliamp hour battery that would only have 500 power cycles on it.
What about heat transfer with new housing here? Have you thought about all that? The heat generated in these units, as you know, is pretty high. Creates major issues.
So we would be looking at anticipating heat through the 4-back screws as well as through the titanium casing. It would all be,
As the conductors, basically.
Yes. And there's not much. You're looking at 2 watts of power coming off that CPU.
Okay. Who would make it?
So it would be, each individual part would be manufactured by different Chinese companies, and then it would all be assembled in China and shipped over here.
Assembled in China by, what, you can find a contract manufacturer? Or
Yes.
Okay.
Well, by the time this trade war ends, it may all be.
Lemon stick. What, so, what do you see as the biggest hurdle? Like, because, you know, I don't design phones, and you obviously know a lot more about this than I do, but, you know, what do you see as the biggest hurdle in actually achieving this?
So the biggest hurdle will be breaking into the market. There is a large sector of individuals like me who want to go for the new phone, and that's the reason that the OnePlus was initially able to break into the American market, is there's this group of tech heads that look on the cutting edge and what can we get, but breaking in just to the market initially will be hard, especially being forced out by a lot of these other major players.
Competitive type.
Yeah, because I'm assuming most phones are bought through partnerships with the telecom companies.
Carriers.
Yeah,
Carriers, right?
carriers.
A majority of phones are, but there are a lot of phones now, because now companies don't offer contracts anymore. It's a pay over this amount of loan period. But so you're seeing a lot of unlocked phones come to the market, like any of Huawei's phones, OnePlus's phones, Oppo's phones.
So OnePlus is a Chinese company that makes a flagship phone?
Yes.
Is that what I'm not familiar with this space at all, apparently.
It's not a very fixable phone, it's not a very durable phone, but it's simply the cheapest that can achieve a flagship level performance at the moment right now.
You said something right at the very beginning of your presentation, which I thought was kind of thought-provoking. You said nobody's addressing this issue, right? And I wonder if, why, right? And is that by design? Because, a lot of consumers actually like the fact that they can get it, they want the newer technology, want a new phone.
Yeah, my kids would be
Yeah.
disappointed.
You know,
not to keep
and certainly the manufacturers,
Right.
and so just,
No doubt, it's really broken.
there's,
They
there
dropped
could be a
it
reason,
themselves on
and again, I see people who, not accidentally, but
Right.
almost purposefully, oh, it fell in my toilet, or it was on my roof of my car, because they wanted a new phone. Yeah.
So one thing about this is we would be able to offer improvements later on down the road. Because it's such a modular design, we'd be able to offer, we can offer now a 1440p or 4K screen instead that uses the exact same Lego brick connector as this one does. Or we'd be able to offer a higher transfer wireless charging later on down the road. But also, it's the reason that a lot of these companies don't compete is because of the stockholders, and you're looking to make the most money. And by making the most money, you want to sell those
Yeah.
warranties, and you
Designed to fail. Yeah.
and you exactly, and that's part of the problem is that they're designed to fail and they're designed to be disposable.
Yeah. But that's capitalism, right?
I think the customizable angle is something that you could also play.
Yeah.
The modular components being able to.
That's a good point.
I got in a huge so I'm originally from Arkansas. I got a big discussion about why is the AR-15 a very popular gun, and the number one reason is it's highly customizable to what you want. It's
So
not performance; it's customization, and I think so. That drives a lot of the desire for these things
And
more than a case.
I do have experience in the manufacturing in the CNC market. I worked for a gun company down in Texas doing their 3D modeling for their AR-15 free flow handguards.
Right. So you understand that's driving a lot of it.
Because you make it new to you, the phone, because you just
Yeah.
place the casing,
Like,
right?
we put
They're brand new.
instead of
Yeah.
titanium,
Yeah,
we use
yeah.
a different color, or make it look brass, which is the hot new metal, or whatever it is. So
Well,
you
how
could
are you
do an
gonna go up
anodized
against
aluminum
somebody
shell.
like this? You got Otter that's in the business, right?
Mhm. Look how chunky that phone is.
I know it is.
Look at the-
Believe me.
The-
Believe me, I know.
So
It's
you-
in there for a reason, so it doesn't break.
Well, so that's what you have this massive rubber outside, you have this cheap plastic housing, wireless charging barely works, and it's going to be slower through any of those cases because of the increased distance from the wireless charging coils. So and that's much chunkier than any durable phone that would be brought to market. The entire idea is that you no longer need a case. People don't want a case. People
Right.
don't want to encapsulate this sexy new phone that you just got, and now we're covering it up. Now you just spent $1,000 on the iPhone X, and you spent $40, and now it looks like just a hunk of plastic.
So all the feature richness, right? I think of the phones you've got, so cameras, you've got your wireless charging, you've got your battery, you've got screens. There's a ton of little modules going on in any iPhone or Android. Is that easy access to get to those, to get modules that would fit your
It's-
system?
And that's why you see a lot of, in that market, you see a lot of different phones in that competition because it is relatively easy to get access to those GPS modules, to the barometers, to the LTE antennas, to the Snapdragon SoCs. It's quite easy to get access to all of those, to all the sensors and SoCs.
You've mentioned wireless charging a number of times. How important, how prevalent is that going to be and how important is that to people?
Wireless charging, despite being an absolutely, personally, I don't care for wireless charging. I'd rather plug in my phone and have it charged to full in 30 minutes. But wireless charging is a massive demand in the consumer market right now. And that's why we saw, so Apple was actually planning on holding out on wireless charging until it got to a technology where you actually have a range instead of having to put it on a pad. But they finally gave up the ghost on that one, and even they've succumbed to the wireless charging demand that's in the market. Any phone that succeeds today will have wireless charging.
Yeah,
I think it's
I
right.
charge by wire, but the problem with that is with all the phones in the house, someone always takes it, and I buy extra ones, and they just disappear, so you gotta keep on buying them.
They can't steal your wireless pad.
Yeah, exactly.
Analysis,
Yeah, exactly.
Or any work to quantify, the cost or the risk environmentally to the, the stockpile of phones that are just kind of, getting.
I haven't done like specifically I've done electronics research in general
Yeah.
for how much electronics waste is affecting the environment. One of the big things is whenever you go to an e-waste recycler, what they do is they ship it off to a third world country. What they do is they burn a majority of motherboards and take out the rare earth metals. And so now it's even more pollution because you're releasing all these very dangerous chemicals into the atmosphere in third world countries and just salvaging the gold.
But I think to your point is selling the social impact of
The
this
social
too, right,
impact
for the
is the sell,
millennials,
it's a big
yeah.
sell, I mean, cause I think it's gonna be challenging, as you say, to penetrate the market, given some of the bigger players, but you're differentiating, the problem, you're trying to solve a problem of, excessive waste and, which is not good for the environment and I think that's something that, I think you could beef up in terms of your sell.
You talked about O-rings, like a big O-ring being like the kind of the silver bullet for waterproofing. I would caution you against that. I've done a bunch of waterproofing of things, and O-rings need to be they're going to be under uniform compression all the way around. If you got 4 screws holding things between the screws, it's
You're
going
gonna
to
mess
buckle and bow and
Mhm.
things. So there's other ways to skin that cat without it being an O-ring, or you can have a nice annular ring seal. Can do a fine job, but don't think of it as an O-ring.
Okay.
Right. Those because you do need to have the right amount of compression, and it can be very tricky with the forces involved. But that said, liquid silicone injection, you can create a beautiful gasket that goes exactly where you want it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my one goal here is just away from adhesive, because the big problem with
Yeah.
adhesive is now, first of all, the consumer has to use adhesive remover, which is an additional
Yep.
cost in the fixing procedure, as well as they have to go through and buy more adhesive, and it's just a whole ordeal that's easily avoidable.
Okay.
Are you doing this by yourself?
So I have a chemical engineering major who I'm working with, as well as I've been consulting with a finance major who's been helping me with all the numbers.
Good job, great job.
Alright, excellent work.
Yeah,
Well
nice-
articulated.
nicely done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
ports would you have?
So the one port would be USB-C, and I'm currently very, very hesitant to put in a headphone jack because of the additional cost associated with it. You're looking at another $10 to $20 per phone for the additional milling and the additional port, as well as you're losing space inside the phone. But provided enough consumer demand in this space, I would include a headphone jack. And that's just up to more, because I have done some surveys of the community.
Yeah.
I haven't gone as far as like going into specific details of the phone.
And if you so you're gonna be forward looking at the market, right, where if Bluetooth headphones are going to be the dominant feature in headphones in the next couple of years, then maybe getting rid of it's fine.
Right.
It makes waterproofing a lot easier as
Yes,
well.
yeah, so
Yeah,
the
for
number,
sure.
anything that sticks out or has a hole
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
Um,
All right, cool. Thank you very much.
Right.
Good job, again.